Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafters, today we're going to make an angled gatefold card and I'm using the Paper Boutique Ocean Breeze pack. I have the paper kit as well as the decorative papers and embellishment pad packs. So I have 3 packs in this one here. So the card that we're going to make using the Paper Boutique papers is an angled gatefold card. You can see here that I have a piece of cardstock in my scoreboard and I have all the other bits and pieces we'll need there to the right of me. So this piece measures 9 by 7 and on the 9-inch side I want to score it at 4 inches. The paper that I'm using here is 280 GSM, so it's a thick, heavy cardstock. And I thought I'd go with the cream, pick up the colours in that paper pack. So I'm going to fold over now and this will give us a 5 by 7 card base. This panel here actually measures 4, but the card base itself measures 5 by 7 and will fit in a 5 by 7 envelope. So we need the other side of our gatefold, and for that I have this piece of cardstock here. This piece measures 4.5 by 7 and I'm going to score this at 4 inches. That little 1/2 inch tab is going to get folded over and it will sit onto the back of our card base. So it'll sit behind like so and then fold over. So I'm just going to burnish that score line, and it's always important to really burnish your score lines well. That way your card will sit nicely. So once I have that on like that, you can see then we have our 2 doors there on our gatefold. So I want to cut an angle now across the top of each of the doors as well as the bottom. Now I'm going to add a sheet of cardstock, the same color and everything, to go on the back. This piece is 5 by 7 and it's going to just hide that seam or 1/2 inch tab there on the back. You can do this if you like, it's up to yourself, but I have cut an extra piece to go on the back like so. So for inside our card here, I want to put a panel, and this piece of white cardstock measures 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. We can put our sentiment on this and embellish this piece inside. I want to cut my angles off on my 2 gate pieces, and for that I have a piece of computer paper here and it will show you what we need to cut off. So for our right hand gatefold, you can see here, this is the size of our panel and we need to fold over our little 1/2 inch tab, which is what I did on the panel. So I'm going to do it on my little template here. Lovely. Okay, so then we're left with this 4-inch piece by 7-inch piece. What we want to do, allowing from the bottom left, we're going to come over 1 inch and mark 1 inch, and then from that bottom left we're going to mark up at 5 inches. We're going to cut from the top right hand corner over to that 5 inch and from the 5 inch down to our 1 inch mark, and that will give us then our angles on our right hand side. And we want to mirror that then on the left hand side. We want to come in 1 inch from the bottom right, so we'll come in 1 inch there and put a mark. We'll come up to 5 on the right hand side, put a mark, and then we can cut those 2 pieces off as well. So that's for those for our doors. On the gatefold of the front of our card, I have 2 pieces of pattern paper. These measure 3 3/4 by 6 3/4. I have 1 piece which will go on the left like so, and we're going to use our little template so we'll know exactly where to cut off the excess of our paper. And then I have a piece for the right hand side, and my template will flip over and it'll show us for this one. So from the bottom right hand piece of this paper we want to come over 2 3/4. So that's literally again coming in 1 inch, and I'm marking up 4 3/4. So I'm coming 1 inch from the left hand side at the bottom, and then I'm coming up on the left hand side 4 3/4. And then we're going to mirror that on this piece. So we're coming in again 2 3/4. That'll give us the inch mark there on the right, and then 4 3/4 up above. So that will give us then the shape that will fit on our 2 doors. And I'll go through cutting them out with you when we get to that later on. Now next I'm going to do a belly band. This card doesn't strictly need a belly band. It'll sit into your envelope and come out fine, but I have this just A4 length of cardstock here. It's 1.5 inches wide, and I want to wrap it around my card when I'm finished. Then on top of that, I've taken one of the toppers from the pack of the lighthouse, and then I've taken a piece of card to go behind it, and I've literally just cut this about 1/8 of an inch all round, that bit bigger. I've again cut off this little happy birthday sentiment here from the pack, and I've put that on some foam. This again is from the pack. It's a sentiment piece. I'm going to stick this inside, and I'm going to take a strip of pattern paper to match what we're putting on our card at the bottom underneath that. Now I'll get to that later on as well. So I have everything here. I'm using a trimmer. This one has the wire in it. I'm going to zoom in so you can see there's a wire there, and the blade runs literally along that wire, so I can see exactly where I'm going to be cutting. And I usually like to use this when I'm cutting things like this. It just makes it easier for me to see what I'm cutting. So now I have my ruler, and what I want to do is, this is the piece that sits on the right hand side of our card. I'm going to measure up to 5 there on that left hand side of that piece, and then I'm going to measure across the bottom 1 inch. So our markings are all on the left hand side of this piece that sits on the right hand side of our card. So this is the piece with the extra 1/2 inch tab. So I'm just marking in 1 inch there. And then what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to pop this in our trimmer and cut this. So now I want to cut, and I'm going to zoom in again from my little mark there right up to the corner. Now I'm not cutting off that tab that we have there at the top. I'm just cutting up to the score line. So once I'm happy with that, then I can run my blade along, and then I can take off that extra piece. So that's the top of our card done. Now I want to do the bottom piece. So I'm going to cut from the 1 inch mark at the bottom up, or down should I say, down to the corner there on the bottom right. So I'm just taking my time, making sure everything is lined up. And there we go. We have our 2 wedges literally cut off. So that is the right hand side of our gatefold done. Now we need to do the left hand side. Now you can always turn this over, make sure all your card is exactly together, and you can just draw a pencil line across the top of the card we've already cut if you want, and down the side, and then cut it off. But I prefer to use my ruler and just make my marks. So again, there from the bottom right, I'm going to come in 1 inch and make a little mark, and then on that side again I'm going to mark up 5 inches and put a mark at the top. Perfect. Lovely. And then I'll bring that over to my paper trimmer, and again I'll sit that inside, and I'll use the wire as my guide to make sure it's on my little mark there at the bottom, and it only goes up to where the card folds in half there at the top. So I don't want it cutting off any more than that. Lovely. And I'll run my blade up along, and that's the top piece cut off. And now we need to do the bottom piece. So again, I will bring the wire to where my 1 inch mark is down at the bottom, and then have it meet right at that pointy bit there just up above. Now I like to bring the blade from the bottom up. I don't want to start my cut at the pointy part because it might buckle it, but that's perfect now. And you can see there I have a little bit of furring from the blade. That's because either the blade isn't very sharp, or there's a lot of fibers in the cardstock. So what I like to do is get a little nail file that I keep in my craft room, especially for this kind of thing, and I just file them away using this nail file or emery board, whatever you like to call it. So there's the angles on our gatefold card already and done. Now what we need to do is look at the patterned paper and do the same angles again on that. So I have my pattern piece here and I'm coming in 2 3/4. That's going to give us an inch there at the end. So you can either measure an inch from the left bottom over or 2 3/4 from the right side over. Now on that left hand side we want to measure up 4 3/4 and I'm going to put my little mark there. That then will allow me to cut off my top and bottom, and I'm just making sure that my measurements are right. But if I put my piece down and the cream card needs a little bit trimmed off so the border is the same, I can always trim that a little bit. It's kind of hard to get it exactly perfect. And remember folks, we're making a handmade card here. It's not something that's made in a factory where everything is just made to size on machines. So, you know, be proud of your handmade. You know, that's what makes it different. Everyone is different. So I have a little piece there. It's a little bit too long, so I need to adjust that. So I'm going to do that. Now, I'm not going to do that just yet. I'll do that on my guillotine trimmer. I'll get a better cut because as you saw earlier, the this trimmer is actually furring the edge of my cream card. So I'm just literally doing the same measurements we did on the last piece. I'm just mirroring them on this piece. So I'm taking an inch off the bottom right and I'm coming up 4 3/4 there along the side. So again, we'll cut these pieces off. And you can see there, I'm not cutting from the corner down, I'm cutting from the straight piece up because we don't want to buckle our paper when we use a trimmer like this. So I'm happy with that now. I have a mirror image. I'm just going to run my little emery board or nail file, whatever you like to call it, along the edges. It wasn't really a problem with this patterned paper. It was just with the heavier cardstock. Now before I do any gluing, I'm going to see how my pattern paper looks on my angled pieces of my card. And I can see there that allowing for a nice even border, I need to take a little smidge, like 1/16 off. So like I said, I'm going to use a guillotine style trimmer. I find it'll get a nicer cut. So I'm literally, you can just see there, I'm taking that bottom that little corner off there, and now it sits perfectly because every trimmer and every cutter, they all cut a little bit differently, and when you're marking up sizes as well, just being a 16th out can make a big difference when you're putting mats and layers on. So again, just have a look, see how you're doing for size, see if you need to cut anything off, but I'm fairly happy with this now. So I'm going to speed everything up now and I'm going to glue my pattern paper onto my card base. You can see there that I'm again burnishing all those score lines, especially for this card with using the heavier card base at 280 GSM. I just want to make sure that it's going to sit really nicely. So I'm going to glue down my pattern paper. I'm using my Collal solvent glue for this. When the Collal glue dries, it dries nice and stiff and solid. So that's what I'm using for this. I also find when using Collal, because it doesn't have water in like the usual white adhesives that we use, I find it doesn't leave those wavy lines. Have you ever used your glue to glue down pattern paper on some cardstock and you find that there's like a buckling to the paper or wavy lines to the paper when the glue has dried? That's because it's a water-based glue. So using a solvent glue can actually combat that happening. And I find using the Collal glue, I don't get that. So that's why you'll see me mostly using the Collal glue when I'm gluing down pattern paper and stuff. I just find that I will have a perfect finish on it. And I'll use the white glue or my Cosmic Shimmer glue for then doing smaller pieces, you know, that I'm hoping won't warp when I put down, and generally doesn't on the smaller pieces. You can see there I added a little trim of the pattern paper there to the bottom of my panel to go on the inside. And that's just basically 1 inch wide by 4 3/4 long. So I'm taking some of the cream cardstock that I used for my card base, and I've cut 2 strips 1/4 inch wide. I want to embellish the strip of pattern paper using these. Now, if you have the Love from Lizzie peel-offs, you could use them along here and it would be beautiful. And I would have used them, but I wanted to show you that you can do this using your cardstock. And I think it just ties everything together. If you have some extra pattern paper with those beautiful flowers on, you could even fussy cut some of those out and put it on the inside there to embellish as well. I didn't go that far this time. I'm kind of thinking this would work as a masculine card because of the colours in it. I know there's flowers and stuff on the inside, but I think it would still work as a masculine card. You can also cut 2 pieces of your pattern paper to go inside the gatefold doors. So when the card is open, it could be open showing the inside. So you could put pattern paper in there if you wanted. I didn't this time around, but you could do. Now I'm wrapping our belly band strip around the card. For this, you want to make sure that it's tight enough that it slides on and stays on. If it's too loose, it will just slide down and off it, and you don't want that. So it's finding a nice balance to it. It needs to be able to slide off easily, but not so easily that it slides off itself and just falls off the card. So I have the belly band now glued so that it's wrapped around the card base. I'm adding my mat and my topper to that, and I'm going to use some glue. I like to put the topper above so I can see exactly where I need to put my glue on the belly band piece. And I'm going to try and center that on the belly band and on the card. I'm going to slide that off and then add a little bit of pressure to this to allow my glue to set. And then I'll just slide it back on. There's nothing worse than sticking something on a belly band over your card and then realizing the whole thing is stuck to your card. That sucks, let me tell you. I've done that. Okay, so I'm using my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to embellish the flowers, just a bit of glitter in the light, and around our tower there as well, our lighthouse tower. So there we go. That is our angled gatefold card. I love it. I hope you do too. I'm going to leave you with some images of the card we've made. I hope you liked my video. If you did, you might give it a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if not, you might click on the subscribe button down below. And if you click the bell icon, that will notify you each time I post a new video. So that's it, folks. Stay safe, and until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.